my diagnosis, the doctor said that I would never walk, I would never talk, and I would never be able to sit if I even lived past the age of 2. Hi there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Vita Luca, and today I have more of a serious video for you. But the week that you see this, I will be going to a geneticist to test my genetics and to see if my benign congenital hypotonia, A, what the underlying cause is, and B, if I'll be able to pass it on to my children or not. If it's genetically linked or an accident. And so I just wanted to talk more about it with you guys, open up about it, and then depending on the results that I get, well, I'll probably give you an update if nothing's like too bad, but I don't know what my state of my mentality will be in once I do get those results. So I want to put out a video the week after. I don't know if I will be able to, but I definitely want to aim for that, to give an update following this video. I do have a video that's going to be coming out that week no matter what, a video of me trying to dye my hair. So there might be 2 videos that week. We'll see. That's what the goal is at the moment. But let's get into this. So I was born with benign congenital hypotonia. And what that is it's a non-progressive neuromuscular disorder. And basically, it's poor muscle tone, and doctors sometimes call it floppy baby syndrome. For me, when I was born, I was basically paralyzed from the neck down. I couldn't hold my head straight. My head was always tilted to one side, depending on my physiotherapy of which way they'd leave my head. Which I also want to put in photos through here of me growing up so that you can see that. Because I do have a lot of photos where it is apparent that my head is stuck to either my left or my right side. And it was just always like that. So like I would have to go through physiotherapy every day from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. My mom would have to walk me over to this clinic that we had in Portage la Prairie, and the doctor there would work on me for 2 hours. I was also born with asthma, and that made it very difficult as well. I was going to the hospital 3 times a day every day just to be hooked up to a breathing machine, and that is part of it. Everything was really underdeveloped with me. I couldn't properly swallow. I couldn't, which I had to go to a feeding clinic for, because literally my mom always says, whatever you fed me went down and then came out. Like it didn't stay. And I have an extremely bad reflex, like gag reflex, because of this. And also, I went and I had a gastroscopy done here. And I found out that there's supposed to be like this flap down by your stomach that's supposed to close over. Mine doesn't do that, or doesn't fully close over. So he's like, you'll get heartburn a lot. And I do. And I hate it because heartburn isn't fun as it is. And I have a feeling that they're all like tied in together. Yeah, so some other things. I'm going to put a link in the video description so you can read more about what benign congenital hypotonia is, or at least what congenital hypotonia is. And then you can kind of see there. So I had a floppy appearance, which is just like I looked like I couldn't do anything. And when you picked me up, I felt like I couldn't do anything. Like, it's just like, this isn't a baby, this is mush. Like a stack of jelly, as this website describes it. As a child, is very slippery. Like, you couldn't constrain me because I could just like wiggle my way out and slip through. I had significant muscle weakness. I couldn't do anything for the longest time. I had absolutely no head control because it was stuck whatever way you left it. Like, the only things that I could move was what was in my face. I had poor suckling. Like I said, I couldn't swallow properly, so I had to learn how to do these things. I ended up scooting at 18 months, I believe. So like a year and a half, which is when most kids are already walking. But that's when I actually started to move. And so instead of crawling or rolling, I scooted. So it's just like you sitting on your butt and you're like using your legs to pull you places. That's the best way I can show you. I'm not going to get down on the floor and do it. Yeah, and I gained head control at about, I think I was 15 months. So it was like just before all of my ability to walk and talk and everything is when I started to being able to do everything. And I also had delayed speech. I didn't get the exact time frame from my mom when I talked, but I know that she said that it was like a long time. And I had about a week of one-worded things like mama, dada, whatever. And then the next week I was like out in full sentences. And so she was like, even though you were delayed, you like caught up really quickly in that. And we're better than some other kids your age at talking. And I had a weak cry. My mom loved my cry because it wasn't a scream or anything like that. It was just a soft little cry that she would barely hear. Like, I know she told me that when she was in the hospital with me, she had to share a room with this other lady who had a screaming baby. Like, that's the type of cry it did. It just screamed all the time. And she would have to be woken up by nurses being like, your baby's crying. Your baby is crying. Like, you need to get up and take care of it. And she's like, oh, I didn't hear it. Sorry. I had physical passivity. You could do whatever you wanted to me. And I was super flexible at the time. I still have some things that I'm like mobile to do, like bending a thumb back. Lots of people can do that. But I also can bend my hand pretty back. And I don't feel this. Like, I feel like my fingers are being stretched, and that's it. Like, I feel nothing in my wrist. And for me, I also apparently, I don't think I've ever been actually diagnosed with this to my face by a doctor. And I also have irritable bowel syndrome. It's going to the bathroom as hell. And some cases of hypotonia actually do affect your bowels. So there is that, and it says that it'll cause constipation and whatnot, which I definitely had as a baby. My mom always said that I would take very painful poops, and I would cry every time I had to poop. And I still have some days where I want to cry because I have to poop, because it just sucks. And like, I also have an egg allergy that I was born with, and sometimes I eat something with eggs in it just to like flush out my system, because when eggs are inside something like a cake or cupcakes, I can eat it. I feel like my throat start to close, but it's not like I'm not going to be able to breathe. Basically, then my system just wants to flush it out as fast as it can. So like 5-10 minutes later, everything is out. Like, it's just out. Sorry for the TMI, but like, this is a medical video. I do have some things that I think could have caused this that weren't genetic, because my parents definitely like don't have it. And for my dad to have it, he would like have it. For my dad to be able to pass it to me, he would have to have it. And same with my mom, just because of how at least the basics genetics work that I learn in like grade 9, like from doing the X's and the Y's, like both my parents would have to have it for me to have it. So I don't know exactly if it's genetic or if a gene got turned on, and my mom did have quite a bit of stress. Oh, and another part of what I think might have caused it is when my mother went into labor with me. She first went into labor in April. I was due for June, okay? So she first went into labor with me in April, but there's this huge snowstorm, and they called it the snowstorm of the century at the time, back in 1997. And so, yeah, there's only one nurse in the hospital, nobody else. And my mom had to be shoveled out of her house by firemen just to be able to get to the hospital. And the nurse was like, you can't have a baby today. I've got nobody. And so, yeah, she just stopped the contraction. She just stopped the labor. She was like, it ain't happening today. And then, and my mom's doctor couldn't get in either. My mom has epilepsy, so she has to have a specific doctor with her to deliver the baby. Otherwise, if she were to have a seizure during the birthing, no one would know what to do. And so she had a specific doctor for that. And in May, once he went on a fishing trip, because he was like, don't worry, this weekend you're not going to have the baby. And I was like, hi, you're going to have me now, right as he left. So he's up north doing like ice fishing, and my mom goes into labor. And now it's the flood of the century when all the snow has melted. And so my mom gets to the hospital. They're like, your doctor's not here. You can't have the baby here. So she had to be sent by ambulance to Winnipeg, which is about an hour away. On May 11th, 1997, I was born at 2 a.m. And my mom said it was within like 10 minutes of her arriving that she was able to get me out, because she was really wanting to push in the ambulance on the way there, and they wouldn't let her. And so, yeah, once she got there, she got all of her doctors, and she was like, yeah, you're just out. And she finds it was a really easy labor and delivery and everything. She loved her pregnancy, all of that. She's like, yeah, it was so easy. I'd love to do it again. But the thing is, I think it's because of my hypotonia that it was so easy, because you're just pushing out a sack of jelly. It's not that hard. Like, my body would conform, and even to this day, it conforms to a lot. Like, my bones are the only things that are, like, solid in me. It's just my bones. And so it's like, as long as you're not fully constraining the bone, I can just get out. Because most of it is like flesh, right? Like, you got a lot of flesh. You get your muscle, you get your tendons and whatever. So, like, she found out that she was pregnant with me at 5 months. She didn't have extreme nausea or anything like that. She just thought she was getting fat. And she would, like, get sick every now and then. But she literally just thought she had a cold each time because nothing was consistent. I know when my mom had me inside of her, I only kicked once. I didn't move ever. She ended up praying to like God to let her know that I'm okay. And with that, I kicked, because she never felt me move otherwise. And you know, like, every mom is always like, oh, can you feel the baby? Can you feel like the foot or the hand when it comes up to the belly? Do you feel kicks? And my mom never did. She felt the one, and then that's when she's like, okay, well, at least my child's okay. And I have a feeling that that's also from that. Like, I just never moved. So I don't think I've ever been able to move. And, yeah, and the thing is, this isn't a disorder or a disease. This is caused by something most of the time. So either there's, like, something like a genetic disorder that's there that will cause this, or whatever. So, like, I don't even know where this is from. And as a baby, I was in the hospital all the time, hooked up to machines, being tested. I hated male doctors for some reason. Baby Vita just did not like male doctors at all. And my mom's brought me to a geneticist previously, and she doesn't remember the results from that. But basically, my diagnosis, the doctor said that I would never walk, I would never talk, and I would never be able to sit if I even lived past the age of 2. Because they were expecting me to die a lot sooner, because it was the worst case that they've ever seen. And it's also a small town, so I doubt they've seen much. My grandma used to work as a receptionist at a place for adults with disabilities. And one of the doctors there just made the comment to my mom, not knowing anything, never seeing me, nothing like that. But he even said that he would sterilize me. And with my genetic appointment, I have been thinking about it. I'm like, if I can't have kids, or if I shouldn't have kids, or if my kids will end up with this, because I really don't want them to. Like, I want to have a healthy child. And I don't consider this to be healthy. You know, that's all parents want, are healthy kids, 10 fingers, 10 toes. And for me, I want the same. Like, I don't want to be going to doctor appointments every single day to like have to take my child somewhere every single day. Then you also have to find really good doctors, because if I didn't have the doctors that I didn't have the doctors who were willing to do the physiotherapy, I would be screwed. Like, I would have definitely have died, because you need to find people who care. And out here in the Czech Republic, doctors are good, but they're not great. But yeah, you definitely need to find doctors who care. And unfortunately, I haven't out here, except I did find my GP. It was so weird to me. Like, he was so interested in my life. He was like, how do you live? Like, what's your life like with this? And I was like, what do you mean? I've never had a doctor take interest in me as even a teen to adulthood with this. Most of them don't even know what it is. So most would be like, oh, flex. Oh, you have muscle, so therefore you don't have a problem. And it's like, I can gain muscle. Yes, it's more painful. Yes, I do some damage when I do it. But like, yeah, I can gain muscle. It's the tone of it. It's the flexibility of it. It's my reflexes. It's nothing to do with that. And so, yeah, so I was really surprised when he really wanted to like take interest in it and be like, well, how do you live? And so I was like telling him everything that's happened, like giving him a basic gist of my medical history, mentioned my shoulder dislocations, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's part of it. That's your hypotonia there. That's the reason why that happens. Because the flexibility, it doesn't heal properly, and then it just does it again because it can easily move. So that's why you've been dislocating your shoulder this entire time. And then I was like, well, I've never broken anything, but I've sprained and strained like basically everything. My elbows, my wrists, my feet, my ankles, like everything that I could. And he was like, hypotonia. Yeah, that's all part of that. And I was even like telling him, because now like sometimes I'll experience a muscle weakness where my leg just gives out. Like 1 minute I'm walking or I'm running, and then boom, I'm on the ground because my leg it doesn't want to support me anymore. And I've had that many a times, and that's how I dislocated my shoulder this last time. I was running and my leg just decided to stop. One of my things are my ankles love to do that, to the point where I can actually walk on the sides, like with a bent ankle. Like, okay, so like say this is your foot, I can walk like this on my foot because it does this so much, but it basically just flops over like that. Like my ankle or my foot just doesn't want to support me anymore, so it just like gives out. Happens all the time. I have to wear like certain shoes. I found certain shoes now that it doesn't happen in, so I wear those all the time. But basically, if I don't have this certain like ankle support, or my shoe doesn't fit fully, like I'm done. My ankle will just be done. And other things that I really noticed as a child is that I would fall a lot, like a lot, like all the time. I've always had like muscle weakness in my legs, to the point where I would just fall all the time. No one ever knew the cause of it. I would literally just start running and then be on the ground. I've had that happen so many times in gym class and recess. And like as a child, my mom would have to like label every single bruise, put the date on it, put the time on it, and be like, this is how she gained the bruise. Just because I was so bruised all the time from falling, that my mom would have to like circle it and label what happened for my daycare. And just so like if a social worker comes, like, I'm not abusing my child, these are the reasons why she has the bruises. And my daycare had to do the exact same thing. If I gained a bruise there, they had to do the exact same thing. Circle it, date it, and put the reason how I got it. Now I don't bruise that bad, and that's not a part of hypotonia at all, is like easily bruising. I feel the reason why I'm shorter is because of this, but then I'm also not sure if it's just because I have a really short aunt on my dad's side, because my half-sister, who doesn't have this, maybe she's a carrier of it, but she definitely like doesn't have it. She never has. She's also short because when I was her age, I was the height that I am now. Like, I stopped growing right at 14. I haven't grown in any way since. I gained 10 pounds since then. You can't even tell. Like, I fit the same clothes, everything. But I just, like, stopped. Right at 12, that's the last time my feet grew, everything grew. And then 14, I gained like an inch. And then I was just done from that point on. And I haven't grown since. So I don't know if that's because of the hypotonia or if that's because I have a really short aunt on my dad's side who's like 5'2". So I got hit with 5 feet. My sister's probably at like 4'8" right now. I just got hit with a short stick. But my parents are 5'6" and 5'8". So I should be 5'7" if you just give me the average between the two. But I'm not. I'm not even 5 feet. Well, I'm like 5 feet. I'm 4'11" and a half. So I think I was at like the 4'10" mark by the time I was 12. And also another thing I wanted to point out was, I'm going to just poorly put up my hair here. You can see from even my facial features, I have a feeling that this is part of the hypotonia, or it's part of the thing that's causing it, which there are some diseases that you can look up on the internet that could potentially cause hypotonia, and doctors for the longest time thought it was Prader-Willi syndrome, except I'm not obese. I've never been obese, so that's the only symptom of Prader-Willi syndrome that I don't have is the obesity and the food obsession that comes with it. But you can see here, like this side of my face is very round and this side is very flat. And then also I have a huge ear on this side of my head. And this one, it's more pinned back and it's smaller. Like, it's smaller. Or even just this. But yeah. Like, that's what it is. And I don't know if that's because I was always like laying on this side or what. Like, I don't know how it became so flat. But it's like this. Like, even up here is more flat than like this side. The side is like round and on this side is very like flat. And I don't know if that's because like I was always laying on this side or what. Like, my mom noticed it as a baby as well. Like, I just had a funny shaped head. And I've seen videos where like microcephaly, like the really small heads that are typically funny shaped, are also linked to hypotonia as well. I don't know if it's in the article that I'll link down, but I might find some more information and put it there for you as well so you can read up. When I go to the doctors for this, I know if there is certain news like I can't or I shouldn't have children, I'm probably most likely going to be sterilized. If I can only have a specific gender of child, I'm most likely going to be sterilized and then just freeze my eggs so that we can specifically make the egg that gender, which would most likely be a girl just because the boy's genes would come purely from me as they gain the Y from the guy. Because it's also not a lot of money here in the Czech Republic. Like, it's like one of my paychecks. And I'm just like, we're a 2-income household. Like, I don't mind giving up one of my paychecks to have a child. It's not even that bad. I might also just possibly freeze them because maybe in the future they can take out the gene. And that's another thing. If they can also do that, where they can go around it, then I'll have them completely remove the eggs and then just put them in a freezer. And we can pick what egg doesn't have the gene or what egg is, you can easily move the gene or whatever you can do to avoid it. I'd probably also do that as well. I get it, you're supposed to love your children and whatnot, but like this also has a great chance of them dying, as I was supposed to die. And that's not something that I want to go through, and I don't think any woman wants to go through her child dying. And like, miscarriages are horrible, stillbirths are horrible, infertility is horrible. And it's just not something that I want for myself. Like, I don't want to specifically put myself into that situation if it's completely avoidable. If it comes to it, that's what I want to do at this moment. I don't know what my mentality will be like once I'm actually told anything. So that's why I want to give you an update on what was said and everything. And we just see those have been my symptoms. what I've gone through a little bit. Most of this all happened to me as a baby. Like, that's when it was the worst. And unfortunately, I can't remember. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. And I hope that if there's somebody else out there struggling with it, that you've learned some information. You know, you're not alone. Maybe you weren't a lucky one who had their child survive. Maybe your child's in a worse condition, and I'm sorry for that if that is the way that it is. But don't bully people just because they're different as well. Like, we're all human. Some of us are just different, and that is fine. And that's what makes us all unique and an individual. And it makes the world a better place if we can all come together. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.